a man tried to intimidate a royal guard in central London. Jack Turner, a 62-inch street brawler, had spent years earning a reputation in London's roughest spots, pubs, alleyways, and street fights. Today, in Trafalgar Square, he saw the perfect target, a royal guard, standing motionless, his posture perfect. Jack, fueled by a mix of anger and alcohol, saw the guard as a symbol of everything he despised: discipline, control, respect. He approached the guard, shoved past tourists, and got in his face, taunting him. But the guard didn't move. The crowd sensed the tension, pulling back as Jack circled the guard, determined to provoke him. He threw a punch, hard and fast, aiming to break the guard's composure. The guard didn't flinch. Instead, he absorbed the blow effortlessly, then wiped a drop of blood from his lip. Jack's knuckles were already stinging. It was clear he wasn't dealing with any ordinary man. The guard was something else. Jack wasn't in control anymore. This wasn't going to end the way he expected. The sun beat down on Trafalgar Square, making the stone feel hotter with every passing second. Tourists milled around, snapping pictures, chatting in groups, unaware of the storm brewing just a few feet away. Jack Turner's eyes narrowed as he surveyed the crowd. He didn't belong here, in this pristine, tourist-filled square. His 6 feet 2 inches frame and muscular build screamed violence, a contrast to the smiles and holiday laughter surrounding him. Jack's day had already been full of frustration, pint after pint in a pub, the tension from the early morning bar fight still hanging heavy in the air. But this wasn't about that. This was about the guard. The royal guard standing stoically near the base of Nelson's column, completely unmoved by the chaos around him. Perfect posture, sharp uniform, everything Jack hated. It was a symbol of everything Jack had never been able to attain: control, discipline, respect. As Jack made his way through the crowd, he shoved past a family trying to take a picture, knocking the camera out of the young father's hands. He didn't care. He was looking for someone to break, someone to show that his raw, unrefined power could get through anything, even this pristine, ceremonial act of stoicism. And the guard was the perfect target. He stopped in front of the soldier, a few feet away, just enough to fill his space. He had the flawless uniform, the immaculate boots. The guard's face was stone cold, not even flinching as Jack's presence took over the space between them. "You think you're tough, don't you?" Jack sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "Just standing there, looking all important, while people like me run this city." The guard didn't move. His eyes were fixed straight ahead, face set, posture unyielding. Jack's chest tightened with irritation. He wasn't getting the response he wanted. His hands clenched into fists, his knuckles cracking with the built-up pressure. "You're just a puppet in a uniform, playing soldier. Bet you've never been in a real fight." Jack stepped closer, his breath hot with the smell of stale beer and cigarette smoke. Still, nothing. No shift, no twitch. The silence stretched out, thick and unbearable. The crowd around them was starting to sense the tension, moving in slowly, some pulling out their phones. Jack felt the eyes on him, but they didn't matter. He was used to being the center of attention. Today, he would prove that the uniform meant nothing, that he could break the guard just like he'd broken others before. The guard didn't flinch. He didn't need to. "You think you can ignore me? Yeah?" Jack barked, his voice louder now, angrier. "Let's see how long you can stay all proper while I'm in your face. You're just a toy soldier." Jack's pulse quickened. This was it. He threw the first punch. Hard. Full force, aimed at the guard's jaw. The crowd around him gasped, expecting the soldier to move, to react. But the guard didn't budge. The punch landed with a dull thud, but instead of the guard stumbling, there was only the slightest twitch of his head. Jack's hand exploded with pain. He shook it out, trying to ignore the burning ache that spread up his arm. He stared at the guard, his heart pounding in disbelief. The guard's face was still stone cold, but now there was a single drop of blood at the corner of his mouth. Jack's eyes widened. He had hit him, and the guard hadn't moved an inch. Something wasn't right. Something was off, and Jack felt it in his gut. This wasn't like any fight he'd been in. The guard's eyes shifted slightly, locking onto his with an intensity that made Jack take a step back. This wasn't about proving who was stronger anymore. Jack had just realized that he might have made a mistake. Jack's hand burned with a dull ache, but it wasn't the pain that rattled him. It was the look in the guard's eyes, cold, calculating, unshaken. The tiny drop of blood hanging from the corner of the soldier's lip was the only sign of damage, But the guard didn't even wipe it away. His stance remained perfect, his eyes still fixed straight ahead, ignoring Jack entirely. It was as if Jack hadn't even landed a blow. The frustration in Jack's chest flared up. His body tensed, muscles coiling as he prepared to strike again. There was no way a man could take that punch and not show any weakness. No way the guard could remain standing like that without flinching. It was infuriating. And now the crowd was watching, some pulling out their phones, others whispering to each other. He had to finish this. Jack took a deep breath, the air heavy with the smell of sweat and anxiety. His mind raced, weighing his options. But there was only one option now. He would break the guard. He had to. It wasn't about just showing his power anymore. It was about restoring his pride. You think you're some kind of hero? Jack spat, stepping closer, getting in the guard's face again. You're nothing but a statue, man. Just a guy with a fancy hat. Still, nothing. The guard didn't move a muscle. The tourists were starting to pull away, sensing that something dangerous was about to happen. Jack didn't care. He was beyond the point of reason. His pride was on the line now. He shifted his weight, bouncing on the balls of his feet, getting into position for another strike. He didn't care about the protocol or the uniform anymore. He didn't care that this was a royal guard. He'd taken down bigger men. This guy was no different. The guard's eyes flicked to him briefly, an imperceptible shift that made Jack's blood boil. He was being toyed with. This soldier, in his immaculate uniform, thought he could stand there, untouched, like he was better than Jack. Come on, you're gonna just stand there? I'll show you what happens when you pick the wrong fight. Jack's voice was low, a growl. And then it came another swing, this one faster, sharper. This time, Jack didn't telegraph it. He aimed straight for the guard's ribs. His fist shot forward like a bullet, the air cutting as his arm extended. But before the punch could land, the guard's hand moved, almost imperceptibly. A shift of weight, a brief tightening of muscles. The punch never made contact. Jack felt something strange, a presence, a shift in the air, like the guard had already anticipated the blow. He hadn't just dodged it. He'd redirected it with a subtle motion that left Jack off balance. The punch hit nothing but air, and Jack stumbled forward, his body jerking out of control. For the first time in the fight, Jack felt a flicker of fear. The guard wasn't reacting like anyone he'd ever faced before. This wasn't some pub brawler, some idiot looking for a fight. This was something else, something controlled, something tactical. As Jack regained his footing, his confidence began to crack. He hadn't expected this. No one he'd fought before had moved like this, like they knew exactly what he was going to do before he even did it. And then the guard spoke, his voice cutting through the air with icy calm. Is that all you've got? The words were measured, delivered without even a hint of emotion. But there was something in the way the guard spoke them, something about the precision of his tone, that made Jack's blood run cold. Jack's mind scrambled for an answer, his body still coiled with frustration and anger. You think you can take me down? I've fought men twice your size. The guard's eyes locked onto his, and for the first time, Jack felt completely exposed. It was as though the guard could see right through him, peeling back the layers of bravado and violence that Jack had built around himself. I've seen men like you before, the guard said. His voice was quiet, but it carried an undeniable weight. You rely on anger, on cheap tricks, but you lack what truly makes a man strong. Jack's breath quickened. He wanted to respond, to throw another punch, but something in the guard's stance stopped him. It wasn't fear. It was something deeper, something instinctual that told him this wasn't a fight he could win. But Jack wasn't ready to back down yet. I'll show you real strength, he growled. But as he moved to take another step, the guard's body shifted once again. It wasn't a sudden motion, but a slow, deliberate change in stance that sent a shiver down Jack's spine. The guard wasn't just standing there anymore. He was preparing for something. The atmosphere thickened with tension. The tourists had all but retreated, sensing what was about to unfold. Jack could hear his own pulse pounding in his ears. This wasn't just a fight anymore. This was a test, and he was about to find out exactly how out of his depth he was. Jack took a step forward, the crowd now a distant hum around him. His fists were clenched, his breath ragged. He could feel the weight of the guard's calmness pressing in on him. For the first time in his life, Jack was facing something that wasn't intimidated by him, something that wasn't rattled by his aggression or his size. And it made him furious. But beneath that fury was something else, a creeping unease. The guard had done nothing but stand still, yet Jack felt like he was slowly losing control of the situation. The guard's posture, perfect and unshakable, was starting to feel less like a physical presence and more like an immovable wall. Jack's muscles twitched with frustration as he sized up his opponent. He had to break him. He couldn't let this go on. People were still watching. His reputation was on the line. "You still haven't moved, huh?" Jack spat, his voice tight. He wasn't sure if it was for the guard's benefit or his own. "This is your last chance. You're gonna regret standing here like some bloody statue." But the guard didn't respond. Instead, his posture shifted again, just slightly. It was like he was waiting for something, waiting for Jack to make the next move. The subtle change was almost imperceptible, but it hit Jack like a wave of cold water. The guard wasn't just standing still out of arrogance. He was waiting for Jack to make the first mistake. And that realization hit Jack harder than anything. The guard wasn't just enduring the insults, the taunts, the punches, he was calculating. Jack's blood began to boil, but he knew something had shifted. This wasn't a street fight anymore. This was a battle of control. He could feel his own instincts kicking in, his street fighter mentality coming to the surface, but the more he focused on the guard's stillness, the more he realized just how out of place he was in this situation. This wasn't about brute force, it was about strategy. And Jack didn't have a strategy. He lunged forward again, this time going for a quick jab to the guard's face. His fist cut through the air, aiming to make contact with the guard's jaw. But the moment Jack moved, the guard reacted. It wasn't a punch, or a block, or a dodge. It was a shift in weight, a flick of the wrist, and suddenly Jack was off balance again. His body twisted, and he felt the guard's hand grip his wrist, halting the punch before it even landed. It was like trying to strike stone. Too slow, the guard's voice was barely above a whisper, but the words sliced through the air, cutting deeper than any insult Jack had thrown. The guard's grip on his wrist tightened, and for the first time in the fight, Jack felt like a child being restrained by an adult. The sheer precision and control in the guard's movement made Jack's chest tighten. The guard wasn't just avoiding the fight, he was controlling it. Jack yanked his arm free, his teeth gritted in anger, but the guard didn't flinch. The smile on Jack's face had long since faded. The adrenaline that had been pumping through his veins now felt like fuel to a fire that he no longer knew how to control. "You think you can control everything, don't you?" Jack snarled, trying to hide the uncertainty creeping into his voice. His pride was slipping. His confidence was fraying. But he wasn't about to let it show. You can't just stand there and take it. The guard's gaze didn't waver. He didn't even respond to Jack's words. But there was a subtle shift in his stance again, an imperceptible adjustment that made Jack realize the guard was waiting for him to make a bigger mistake. The realization sent a chill down his spine. Jack took a step back, his chest heaving. The adrenaline was still rushing through his body, but now it felt like the energy was being drained out of him. Every movement was becoming more desperate. He had already thrown everything he had, every punch, every insult, every threat, and yet, the guard hadn't even broken a sweat. Then it happened. The moment that made everything clear. The guard spoke again, his voice low, carrying the quiet weight of someone who had seen far worse than street violence. "You've never been in a real fight, have you?" The words hit Jack like a punch to the gut. The guard's calm demeanor, the way he moved, it wasn't just a show. It was real. He was talking about something Jack couldn't even begin to comprehend. Jack's fist loosened at his sides, a flicker of doubt passing through him. He wasn't used to this. He wasn't used to losing. "Shut up," Jack muttered under his breath. He couldn't let the guard see it. He wouldn't let him. But deep down, Jack knew this wasn't a fight he was going to win. The guard's eyes shifted slightly, and Jack felt a pit form in his stomach. He was outclassed. There was no brawl here, no contest. This was control against chaos. And chaos wasn't going to win. Suddenly, the guard's hand shifted. It was a fraction of a movement, but Jack felt the tension build in the air. His instincts screamed at him to back away, to avoid whatever was coming, but it was too late. The guard's fist came in, a swift, controlled strike that took Jack completely off guard. The blow landed with devastating precision. There was no wasted motion, no hesitation, just the clean, brutal efficiency of someone who knew exactly how to end a fight. The impact echoed through Jack's skull as his head snapped back, his mouth filling with blood. His legs gave way beneath him, and he crumpled to the ground, gasping for air. The world spun as his vision blurred, and for the first time, Jack felt completely powerless. He tried to lift himself up, but his body didn't obey. His mouth was full of blood, his teeth aching with every breath. The guard stood over him, not a trace of triumph in his expression, just the quiet, calm presence of someone who had already won. Jack had underestimated him, and now he would have to pay the price.